Hey everyone, namaste and welcome to this evening's conversation with Swami Divyananda Ma. Those of you who are here listening in, please say hi in the comment section and please enter your questions as well. Let's try and make this as interactive as possible. Now, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Shailaja Menon and I have been a yoga practitioner and teacher for over 20 years now. I began my journey in Coimbatore with integral yoga and continued in Malaysia with my teacher, Manoj Kaimal. Now, along the way, I set up my own yoga studio, Mat and Beyond Yoga Studio. And my book, Yoga Shakti, was published in 2018. And currently, I am also the host of a yoga show by Anand TV based in the UK, again called Yoga Shakti. Right? So, as you can see, the yoga practice has shaped my life. And I would like to add here that all of these conversations are available on my YouTube channel, which you can check out later on and hopefully subscribe to it as well. Now, to introduce my guest for this evening, my very, very, very special guest, Swami Divyananda Ma has a wealth of experience teaching integral yoga around the world since 1973. Her teaching experience includes corporations and universities, the Commonwealth Cancer Center, and the Dr. Dean Ornish Reversing Heart Disease Program. She also serves as one of Integral Yoga's Hatha Yoga, Raja Yoga, and meditation teacher trainers. Over the years, she has served as a director of Integral Yoga Institutes in Los Angeles, San Francisco, and as ashram manager at Yogaville. She also served for 10 years as the director of the Integral Yoga Institute in Coimbatore, India, where I had the great pleasure of meeting her. And this immersion into the South Indian culture has added great depth and understanding to her practice of yoga. Now an itinerant monk, Swami Divyananda is constantly on the road. She leads the annual Sacred India tours to sacred sites in India, in addition to international yoga retreats and trainings. On a personal note, which I have to add here, Mataji is the reason I started as a yoga practitioner and through whom I was introduced to Swami Sachidananda's teachings at the Integral Yoga Center in Coimbatore, India, more than 22 years ago. Now, I still remember going into that center and seeing this radiant being so full of light and love and thinking, I want to be just like her. And here I am 22 years later, and I still want to be just like her. So there's lots of catching up to do. So she then went on to encourage and inspire me to be a yoga teacher. Now, it was something that had never crossed my mind earlier, and I had no idea what the path ahead lay. But she suggested it, and somehow it just seemed so right and the most natural thing to do. So I said yes, and I did my first teacher training with integral yoga under Mataji. And that's the story. So till date, she continues to inspire me with the beautiful light of her presence. And I hope through this conversation, she will inspire all of you too. So welcome, Mataji, and it gives me such great pleasure to have you on this conversation. So I'm going to allow Mataji to start. I'm going to allow Mataji to start with a prayer.
Om Shanti. Thank you, beloved Shailaja. What a beautiful introduction. So let's all spend a moment in prayer. If you don't mind straightening the spine, centering the body, deepening the breath. Send the awareness inward. Notice the light. The light in your heart is the same light in every heart. And from that central light, let's share our voices in Om. Om. And I pray that the divine guide us all, myself and Shailaja, to share the teachings, and all of you to open your hearts to receive. Om Shanti. Thank you, Shailaja.
I just want to thank all of our people who have come here, and I really hope you're going to go away feeling more inspired. So, to begin with, your own journey is such a source of fascination for me. You have been in this yoga practice for 50 years now, and I was just jokingly telling Mataji just before we came on live that I don't know of anybody else who has been in this path for 50 years. So it's really been, a long and committed journey. So to begin with, let's, like they say, start at the very beginning. How did you come across Swami Sachidananda? How old were you at that time, and what were you doing at that time in your life?
It was 1970, Shailaja, and I was fresh out of college. I had gone to the famous campus, UC Berkeley, and I was there right through the free speech movement. That meant going to classes between corridors of armed soldiers, running from tear gas. We were certain at that time that we had changed the world order. It wasn't true. And coming out of college, my parents very politely said, "Darling, we've supported you all the way to this point in your career. Now it's up to you to support yourself." Which meant I had to go to the enemy, the corporate world, to get my livelihood. It was so confusing, Shailaja. Me and my peer group, we struggled a lot, and we searched. I went to every New Age program offered in Berkeley, San Francisco, one after another. And among many other things, I went to a yoga class, an ordinary beginner level yoga class. And I was a very poor student. I had just had dinner. I could not do bow pose. It didn't matter. At the end of that class, I felt there was a light where there had never been light in me before. Some dark room was now fully lit up. And that was the beginning of my yoga class, my yoga career, that one class, and that awakening of light. I had no interest in ever meeting a guru. And when Swamiji came to San Francisco, my teacher said, "Come, see our guru, see our guru." I said, "Oh, thanks, I'm busy." Many times I said that, "Oh, thanks, I'm busy." Until finally, one of the teachers said, he used my English name. He said, "You've got to come." And his eyes got quite huge. And I realized I had to go. But I sat at the very back of the room, fresh out of college. To me, the great man would be very eloquent and barely able to understand him. Long words, lofty ideas. And there was our dear Swamiji talking about constipation, dealing with your husband or wife. And I thought, he's so beautiful, but he's not for me. Really, I was such a hard case that in front of my guru, I didn't get captured. But what happened is when I went home, I went flying up the steps to my apartment. And I got to the top and I thought, where did that energy come from? Oh, must be that man in orange. And that was my first moment of discipleship. And then I went back, I saw him again and again and was deeply in love with him. But it was a unique moment in time, Shailaja. My generation came out of so much turmoil, and there was such a deep level of search in us. How do we find our way forward? We're not happy with this world. We want a different world. We want a different role to play. Where do we find that? And it happened that at that time, the visa laws had changed, and it was easier for an Easterner to get to America. And so in the mid-60s, there were many gurus who came, Sikh, Buddhist, Hindu, from many different faiths. And all of them got tremendous following. There was a thirst for it. So Swamiji was one of those. And he came as a young man of 56, I think. I met him when he was about 60.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much. That was so absolutely beautiful to hear your account of, your whole push against not meeting Swamiji, but then meeting him anyway, and finding your destiny through that meeting. So, what aspect of his teaching drew you to yoga? So, I'm thinking you had so much, you were not really so open to him, but there must be something about what he said or what he spoke that resonated deeply with you to eventually become a sannyas in his order, right?
Well, Shailaja, and I would have stayed on the yoga path even had he never appeared.
Okay.
From that one class and then the subsequent classes, I was completely caught. But then it was him, Shailaja, his beauty and his presence. I described having all that energy, and I went back over and over. And I went to a retreat, and at that time, when he offered something simple, there would be a huge attendance. So it was a retreat in Santa Cruz, California, 500 students, and he lectured outside. Maybe it was a third lecture, fifth lecture, I don't know. But I sat there in the audience, listening to his words, and I thought, this is not a human being. That's exactly what I thought. This is not a human being. Because I'd never come across somebody whose sequencing of thoughts was without ego. There was some pure channel in him, and he was kind. He was the soul of kindness, Shailaja, and we knew that he was there for us. And on that day, I went into the woods and I cried. I cried for hours because I'm from a family of atheists. I'm the daughter of two atheists, amazingly. And to see the divine and sacred walking on earth in human form, it was a little too much for me. Like I had to reorganize my worldview, my outlook, my understanding, my goals. And that awe of who he is has never changed. It's never changed. I don't think of him as a human being, really. He had, of course, human expression, human flaws, human form, but the personality that manifested was coming from a different source. And it was the fascination, the thrill of him and being around him, his way of seeing the world, his guidance that has inspired me and continues to inspire me. He left his body 20 years ago, or 19 years ago, I think. But it hasn't made that big a difference. Of course, the thrill, we would be so excited about the possibility of seeing him in his little Jeep going around Yogaville, or speaking to him for a few minutes at satsang, or having a problem serious enough that we could actually call him on the phone. That also was exciting. But so that titillation has gone. But the sense of this extraordinary sacred presence is with me all the time. And I reach for it all the time, and I pray to it all the time, that he may continue to guide me and keep me safe.
So beautiful.
Did I answer the question?
Yeah, it's great. So I was just going to ask you about, if you could share some stories of Swamiji, because like I actually never got a chance to meet him in person, and I only know him through the books and all of that. So You had the great honor of being,
It was a great
his.
honor. It was a great honor. So many stories. He was in love with life, Shailaja. He was in love with life. He almost never missed an opportunity to crack a joke. And though here he was, the head of a vast organization and responsible for so many youngsters, yet he was lighthearted, very lighthearted. And as I said, he was the soul of kindness. Now, his students, when he came, his students are mostly 20 years old or around that age, and in full-scale rebellion against the established order. And that also meant very little discipline among us. Yes, there was a time he said, here I came to America as a spiritual teacher, but I have to train you in things like keeping gas in the car and keeping your room clean. He said, your parents should have done that. And then he said, well, it must be my karma.
That is so funny.
I really, looking back, I feel so sorry for him that he ended up landing in this country with this batch of kids. So in the beginning, he was okay, 56 to 60 years old. He was fiery, and his message was discipline. It was always discipline. And we got so many scoldings. If we slammed a door, if we were careless with furniture, if we dragged a chair instead of lifting a chair, he kept saying, this world is sacred. These chairs have feelings. Hey, be tender to things. He as I understand it now, he was trying to awaken our consciousness so we would be more present in every moment.
True.
And be more attentive to our movements and actions. He was very particular about slamming doors. And there was one time I had brought him to a lecture, and I went to check to see that the passageways at the back was open. And when I returned to the car, the door slammed behind me. And when I went to his car to open his door, he locked the door. It was one of the most horrible moments of my life, standing outside the car, saying, Swamiji, they're waiting. But so he could really scold. And we got lots of scoldings, but he could not hide the fact. He just could not hide the fact that he loved us and that he was essentially immensely kind. So we survived through our scoldings. I don't know of anybody who ran away. But Shailaja, it's very fascinating. As the years went on, the message changed. I hope and pray it's because we became a bit more disciplined. I'll never know for sure. But the need for him to be so ferocious became less. And he also became an old man. I think the energy of scolding us may not have been there for him. But the message became one of surrender. He said over and over, there are invisible hands to help you. Okay? There's divine presence around you. Learn to call on that and learn to have trust and faith. And those are the messages he left us with at the end of his life. And he said over and over, I'll just add this in, Shailaja, it's not actually part of your question, but towards the end of his life, he prepared us. This is out of his kindness. I think he started preparing us for his leaving the body about 20 years ahead of time. I think it took him 20 years. We were that attached. I remember a student handing him her mala and saying, Swamiji, please bless my mala. And he looked up at her and he said, "What are you going to do when I'm gone?" But that was fully 20 years before he left his body. And as it came close to his departure, he would tell us who were senior, he said, "I'm staying in my body for the new students. You people know the teachings. You can consult with each other. You can read the books. You don't need me anymore." And there was one particular call when a student, a young woman here who was senior, so maybe not so young, she had called him to ask his assistance with a problem at the ashram. And he kept saying to her, "Look, go to the administration. They will sort it out. Okay, you can't depend on me for this kind of problem anymore." She persisted. It was her nature. She kept persisting. Finally, he said, "I'm dead and gone. I can't hear you. I can't hear you. I'm dead and gone." Okay, she still persisted. Then he hung up on her. So, in that way, he was careful that we could manage it when he left his body. And he told all of us who were senior, he told us, "This is the year I'm leaving my body."
Oh, wow.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine that?
Mataji, thank you for sharing such beautiful, beautiful, memories of Swamiji. And I truly love that teaching that you shared about surrender. I think that is so healing and that is so comforting for all of us listening, because it's just a lot of the times we feel we're here on our own and we have to deal with everything ourselves. But just what you said about surrendering and knowing that there are divine hands there to help us and guide us along our path brings
Right.
such comfort and ease to all of us. So thank you so much for that very beautiful message. That's something I'm going to take away with me. So we're going to move from Swamiji to you, Mataji. Like I said, you're the only one I know who is in this path for 50 years. So can you share? Like, I think you were in 20 years when you came into this path.
23. I was
23.
23 when I met Swamiji. Yeah.
Okay. So, what can you share with us, right? It's been a long journey and you've been through many experiences, teaching in the US, being in Coimbatore. So, what can you share about, some reflections about your life in yoga, and what do you think is, like, what do you live by? What is your core, what you have taken from yoga practice and you try to live by that?
That's a lot of questions, Shailaja. Well, I'll generally tell my story and I'll try to define my core principles. But I was a very clumsy girl when I came to Swamiji, and I made so many blunders in front of him. And so he had a big project to shape me. And I also had sexual attractions. I was always having a crush on somebody. And I would call Swamiji. I would say, "Swamiji, Swamiji, I have an attraction." He would say, "So who loves you the most?" And he has the capacity to put words in your mind. Sometimes when he asked me a question, he also put in my mind the answer. I don't know how he did it. "So who loves you the most?" "God loves me the most, Gurudev." "Yes." Okay, so stay away from that boy. And sometimes he transferred boys out of the center I was in. So that was a very big struggle for me. But he was so patient, Shailaja. And he was unyielding in his stand. He says, if you're disturbed by an attraction, you have to stay away from that boy. And he said, if you're having a lot of sexual feelings, he said, get in a cold shower. Don't wait to take your clothes off. So that was a very central struggle. And his patience with me was exemplary. There was also the struggle of being able to serve him well. So after I joined the organization, I was sent to Los Angeles, and we had quite an active center there. And after a year or so, the director left, and I was in charge. But I was still this really bumbling young woman. And within a year, Swamiji fired me. He said, we need somebody here who can do things properly. And I didn't object. I could see the problems. So somebody from back east came and worked there for a year, but I don't remember why she left, but after a year she left. And Swamiji said, okay, why don't you direct it again? Shailaja, this is so embarrassing. It only lasted 1 year. And he said, I'm sorry. Actually, that's not true. He didn't say, I'm sorry. I just got one of those colossal scoldings, and he sent somebody else to run the center. It happened 3 times, Shailaja.
But he never gave up.
He didn't give up. I don't know. Maybe he had no one else. Yeah, that is true, actually. He was willing to let me try again and again. So he fired me 3 times. He reinstated me 3 times. I hope I learned something. But the need to be responsible and yet peaceful. It's still so hard for me because in my eagerness or anxiety to do things well, I overwork. I've always done that. And so he had to shape me to be responsible and also shape me to be balanced. And he would say things like, your conscience should tell you when you've done enough, when he saw me overworked. He said at one point, work done when you're tense is basically useless. What a line. Because with that one line, he canceled like 40 years of my effort because I was always tense. And I'm still working on that, Shailaja. Some of his teachings are seeds that are still growing inside of me, trying to understand, how do I do this? How do I manage all these responsibilities and yet be a calm, peaceful presence? Oh, that's a lifetime work.
What are some other principles that you've tried to live by?
Right. Here's another, and I'll tell you the story that goes with it. So after I was assigned to India, he gave me every support. And I came back once a year to Yogaville. And he would call me to his home and spend a little time just checking in to see what I was dealing with, to see if he could help guide me. So on one of those occasions, I was there at his home and I was crying. And Shailaja, I do not know what I was crying about. But I was crying. This is hard, that's hard, I can't do this, that person's mean, whatever. And he didn't say a word. He was just, you can imagine, he was just nodding his head. I don't know if he berates himself for not having disciples that are a little more competent, but he was shaking his head. And then after a while, he said, let's go to lunch. And his dining hall was 100 yards away, and he used a little golf cart to go back and forth. And he said, I'll pick you up in the golf cart. And I remember it as being forever before he came around to pick me up. And I felt like a 16-year-old girl on her first date. No kidding. And when he finally came, I climbed in the golf cart, something happened, Shailaja, where the wind came in at a funny angle, and the tree next to us, the leaves were belly up. They were upside down. Somehow the wind came from underneath, and we both looked. And then he looked back at me and said, "This is because of you." Can you imagine? And I said, "Yes, Swamiji," which is what I always said, but I had no idea. And then we had gone to lunch. We were sitting. He had a small private dining room. And partway into the meal, I said, "So if we're upset, it disturbs nature?" And you know what he said? "Be quiet and eat your lunch." But it was one of those times that he put the answer into my mind, which was, of course, when we're so upset, it disturbs the energies around us. That has been, I think, above all teachings, the one I hold on to. Because invariably, every day, we run into energies that are disturbed, things that aren't going well, challenges. And if we recognize that we may have contributed to that energy, that disruption, by our own perception, maybe not through words or actions, but by the subtle energies that we brought into the situation, then we know where to look for a solution. So there we go, taking responsibility.
That is so beautiful.
Yeah, that's been key for me. That one is
Yeah.
key for me.
And we're always talking, right, about how, we always think about all our problems coming from the world outside, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
that person's fault, it's the situation in the
Mm-hmm.
country, it's the society's fault, it's always other people's fault, right? But this is such a beautiful, way that Swamiji explained about how, in many ways, what is our inner environment. Our inner environment has such an influence on our external environment as well, and like, we may not always be able to change, or not always, I don't think we can really do very much about the external environment, but all we can do is really work on our own internal environment and our perceptions through our yoga practice, and that allows for settling at least within ourselves, and then eventually I think that settling translates outside. So I just want to say hi. Just thank you to all of you. Many of my students are here. Vijay, Gauri, Chandran. Geeta's signing in from UK. So wonderful to have you here. Minnie is like my sister. She's here. And Umaji, and there's Balaji as well. So wonderful to have all of you here. Thank you for signing in. And, just all of us are just partaking in this bliss of Mataji's learnings and teachings over these last 50 years. So thank you so much for that. And that was really beautiful. I think so central about learning to deal with our inner selves. So you were in India, and that's where I met you. I think for 10 years you were there in Coimbatore.
Mm-hmm.
So can you share a little bit about what your Indian experience has been like, and what you have gained from there or dealt with there?
I'll
but I
try,
must,
Shailaja.
but I must say right here that Mataji has so many faithful students in Coimbatore right now, and even today when I go back to Coimbatore, there is this big group of students who are all Mataji students and continue to think of themselves as Mataji students. So wherever she goes, she has this legion of fans.
That's too much, Shailaja. Om Shanti. Yes, I'll tell you about my experience in India. I went for a month in 1989, Shailaja. It was a month-long
Month.
tour. Yeah, a month. That was my introduction. And it was a gift from one of the devotees here. And they had offered the money that one Swami might be able to go. And my name was picked out of a hat. And I was unhappy about it. I had an administrative position, and it meant I would have twice as much work. to get things organized for my absence and to train somebody to look after it. So I was unhappy. But when the plane touched down in Mumbai, that unhappiness disappeared. I cried. So how extraordinary that this experience that I was rebelling against touched me so deeply. I think my soul knew that it had come home to its place of origin. And I feel that my spiritual life truly began in India. Seeing the capacity for devotion and discipline, and a completely different concept of the divine. In our Western society, we're very hierarchical. So the saint or the God is a perfected being, perfect in every way. But in Hindu mythology, we see the gods having all kinds of problems. They have affairs, they go into debt, they fight with each other. And also in Hinduism, we see the god being so gracious. Sometimes Lord Shiva would give a boon to a demon. If we go to the god with a really, truly loving heart, definitely they will bless us. That concept doesn't exist so much in the West. We're more consigned to this rigid framework. Even we have a day of judgment when all of our sins are evaluated, everything carefully measured. So what freedom to come into contact with this idea of a loving God, and a very forgiving, compassionate God. And so that reformed my idea of what divinity is. And it also helped me in my relationship to Swamiji, because in the West, he's held to a rigid standard. Okay, you're a guru, therefore you've got to be perfect. You can't get my name wrong, okay? You can't get the date wrong, and you can't be 5 minutes late, like that. That's the crazy Western one. In India, we saw Swamiji more relaxed, and the students seemed to see him. This is my projection, but it seemed to me that he was viewed as a phenomenon. The enlightened soul is a phenomenon. And so many of the Indian gurus were really very eccentric, chain smoking, swearing, drinking, and so on. So Swamiji had full latitude to be late to a lecture or to get a name wrong. And that was so beautiful to me. It was so beautiful to reconfigure what enlightenment is, and to understand it as attunement with the sacred divine, totally invisible to us, but everywhere present. So that was the beginning of the transformation India brought. And Shailaja is very much exaggerating, but I forgive you for that. And saying that the students who came in Integral Yoga were students of Swami Satchidananda. And they, far better than the Americans, they recognized his stature and attainment. And they right away knew how to relate with him. Far better than I could, my students could. And it was easy for them to joke back and forth. So I learned from that, but I think most of all I learned from seeing the devotion that is twined into every moment of the Hindu life. So I would say, so how are you today? Fine, by the grace of God. Okay? The idea of divine presence is always there. And I'll share one moment, very ordinary little thing, but it always stays in my mind, of walking down a sidewalk behind a man and his two children. And he passed in front of the entrance to a temple, and worship was going on. He paused, okay, and he slipped his feet out of his sandals to stand on the bare ground, on sacred mother, and stood for a few moments, lining up with the sanctum of the shrine, prayed, and put his feet back in the sandals and walked on. It was hardly 30 seconds of time, but it's unforgettable in my mind that the reverence and devotion is so entwined into daily experience.
Yeah, so I'm not exaggerating about Mataji students. We have Abhi here online, and Abhi says pranams to Mataji, and nice to see you after a long time. So there's another of Mataji's devoted students in Malaysia connecting with her. And I have a
Can,
student, Chandran, who is having a question. He says, Mataji, how do you regain balance when encountering negative thoughts or energy? Do you
oh,
focus on the breath or your guru or another method?
okay, I'm happy. First of all, Abby Rami, sorry I can't see you. I'm so thrilled you're here. I was thinking an example of Indian kindness. Her mom sent me breakfast every day for how long, Abby Rami? 3 years. And yes, Abby Rami, I can't forget you, Abby Rami. Om Shanti. And Chandran, how do you deal with the mind when it becomes negative? I'm going to give you a little story. So as Shaila just said, she doesn't know other people who've been so long on the path. Well, the fact is I'm very old, and she doesn't know very many old people. Um, but old people get tired. And there's plenty of times when Chandra and I'll say to myself, oh, I'm so tired, okay? And yet I have many duties to attend to. So I have a little system. So I'm so tired is a form of negative thinking. It's looking at my weakness. So I use an affirmation, and I took it from a book about a dog. Okay, the dog was the protagonist. It was a very cute book. He was the detective's dog, and he always knew who the criminal was before the detective did. And he
Why
was
am I not
so
surprised?
frustrated. It was such a cute book. But the dog, when they went for a ride, he would say, tip top, 100% full of pep, raring to go. Life doesn't get better than this. Okay? Those were the words. And I've taken that as a mantra. So when I feel tired, I bring in the opposite thought. Enthusiasm for life. Tip-top, full of pep, 100%, raring to go. Life doesn't get better than this. If I say that 10 times or 20 times, I'm ready for action. It's like a little bit of coffee. And I'm glad you brought this up because it goes back to the story I mentioned about how Swamiji said, this is because of you, when the leaves went upside down. That in our consciousness, we have a great power, and it's our responsibility to use that power in positive ways. And it may not even be the power of thought formed in words. It may be the power of the energies and feelings that arise inside of us. So it's a great responsibility to handle that and to not spiral downward into negativity. So affirmation, like tip-top, raring to go, that's a way of dealing with the words in the mind. We bring those words in, they bring with it energy. And there's so many affirmations that you can use to counter anxiety or low self-esteem, worry. It's a very, very powerful practice. Just bringing in the words that introduces another energy into the mind. But there are other things. Number one, really simple starting point. Do something different with the physical body. If you're in your room, go outside. Okay? If you're lying down, get up. Okay? If you're out in the woods, go inside. Okay? If you have a moment, take a shower. Just moving the body to another location opens the door to bringing in another energy. So that will help. The practice of Pratipaksha Bhavana, my guess is that Shailaja speaks about that often. It's introducing the opposite thought. So I gave the example of the enthusiasm of the dog, but you may be focused on somebody's negative qualities. Maybe you have a boss that's a little bit abusive. What you can do, or it could be husband and wife, because husband and wife get into their spats. We know that. What you can do is look at the positive qualities of that person. They may not have very many positive qualities. It might just be the shape of their nose or the clothes they choose. Yeah, but if you focus on what's positive, that relationship can change. I know this because I've had to do it so many times. Sometimes if I have a very hard relationship, I'll sit down and write 20 good things about that person, read it every day, keep refreshing in my mind that that person also has beautiful qualities. What happens, again, it's on the very subtle level of our being, that for the time that you're reading through those 20 good qualities, you're emanating a very positive energy toward that soul, and they pick it up. They may not tell you they notice, but they'll pick it up, and it will open the doors to a better relationship. It's a phenomenon. We have tremendous power in the way we use our mind and the way it affects relationship. So try that. That's 2 different techniques. You can also, of course, use mantra. I'm sure Shailaja has introduced the use of mantra, but the mantras are like a way we tune our energies to higher vibration. If I had a radio here, it would give me many options for the different stations. So if your mind's radio is tuned to KEGO, me, I'm so great, or I've been mistreated, you can change the station by using mantra. And it can be done with the mantra out loud. It can be done with a simple mantra like Om or Om Shanti. Or you can sit down and do the Gayatri mantra or Mahamrityunjaya mantra. You find the mantras that you have an attraction to, that give you delight. Use them to shift the energies in the mind. It's one of the great miracle practices of yoga. It can make all the difference.
That is so beautiful and so powerful, Mataji. The different techniques, I think all of us need this.
We all
Like
need it.
every day, I think we need this, because every day we get assaulted by, ill will, and, we feel all of that building up in us. So we need techniques and tools to be able to go beyond that and to be able to regain our balance. So I'm just going over this. Mataji just said one very powerful way is affirmations, right? So some things that we repeat to ourselves, depending on each of us have different struggles. So regarding whether it's anxiety or depression or anger or low self-esteem, have an appropriate affirmation for that. And then Mataji also talked about Pratipaksha Bhavana, which is again offering the opposite thought. So if you are totally angry with someone, think about something positive about that person. And another way is also to have a expanded perspective, right? So like Mataji talked about the ego. So we're always, looking at everything to our perspective. So to kind of make allowances for the person, right? Try to expand our perspective. And then, of course, the mantra chanting, because every word, like Mataji said, every word has a vibration. Yeah, so that is a powerful tool that we have to shift the vibration that we have. Like, we don't realize that, we think that we can think bad things about people, and then that's not going to translate, right? But whatever we carry within us, in so many, like, communication is not just words, right? Energetic communication is, so powerful, and that somehow transmits to the environment around us. So if we get the mantras, we shift our energy within ourselves, and that somehow translates. So I'm going to say hi to, there's my cousin there, Karti Chechi from Hyderabad. Hi, Karti. And there's also Sunita. So wonderful to have you here, Sunita. And Chandran says, thank you for the lovely story and guidance. I understand now why Shailaja always speaks so fondly about you, Mataji.
That's sweet. Om Shanti.
And Abhi says, so energizing to hear this, Mataji. Really love to keep hearing more of your pearls of wisdom. Yes, I am hoping Mataji will visit us more and have more conversations with us, and share more of her wonderful, wonderful knowledge, and guide us all on the path as we struggle through so many situations. And I think this was so powerful. So another question is something, this is to inspire everybody. I had warned you earlier, I was going to ask you about this, about, keeping to a routine and, your life in yoga will, because we all give up along the way and say, oh, we're too old for this, or, my back doesn't permit it. And we have so many reasons why we can't do the practice. So Mataji's been on this path for 50 years. To me, she has not aged one day from the time I saw her 22 years ago in Coimbatore, and she carries with her the same energy and the same zeal and enthusiasm. So I'm going to ask her to share her routine with us and inspire us, so that when we get to Mataji's age and beyond, hopefully, we will all be inspired to continue with this practice.
You're way too kind, Shailaja. The camera actually is nice to me, but I look every minute of my age.
No, Mataji, I am not kind. Truly, I speak from the heart. And everybody here are people who know me, and they know that that's how it is. I truly mean every word I say.
I won't fight with you, Shailaja. I wouldn't dream of fighting with you. Okay, I am a very weak person, shameless. I'm very dependent on community. So here at Yogaville, fortunately, they have a regular schedule. Meditation 6 a.m., meditation noon, meditation 6 p.m. Okay. This holds me in line. Not that I attend every one, but I make it twice a day. Hatha yoga, traditionally we do directly after meditation, start the day right. Because I'm such a lazy bum, I do mine in the evening, but I do it in the evening because I have a friend who will practice with me. I find friendship the greatest tool for practice. Just having one other person who shows up, and we're naughty in that too, because we do a little bit of chat as we practice, not as concentrated and inward as would be desirable, but it keeps me on track. And I love my practice with all my heart and soul. I can't imagine life without a daily meditation, and I can't imagine living in a body in which I haven't nourished with yoga asana. I love my asana practice. I'm in constant awe of what it does for me, and I love my mantra practice as well. Now, I'm not always in community where I have these great supports, but I'll tell you a little story. And it was a day when I decided I would not meditate. Okay? I had just finished a program. It had been really hard. And had flown from one city to another. And in the morning when I got up, I said, I deserve a break. I'm sleeping in. I'm not going to meditate this morning. I deserve this. So I called a friend, and we went out for breakfast, and we ate eggs. I'm not supposed to eat eggs, okay? But we had some eggs. We drank coffee. I'm not supposed to drink coffee. But we had coffee. And we gossiped, and I'm not supposed to gossip, but we gossiped. Okay? And when I left the restaurant, I fell down and broke my wrist. Okay?
Oh my
So,
God.
so since then, I've been very regular in my practice for fear that he'll break the other wrist. Okay? So, though I believe in a compassionate God, I know the importance of it, of a regular practice. And there's an element of fear in me that if I don't be very consistent, all right, yes, it's
He will
true.
crack the whip.
That's right. That helps me stay on track. Okay. If I've done my hour of meditation practice, pranayama and my meditation, it's not fully just meditation, then I feel, okay, I'm safe. I'm safe for another day. Okay. So I know fear is not a positive quality to cultivate in you, but it's been a bit helpful in my case. And so I find a way, even if I'm not in a community, even if I'm not feeling well, I sit at the altar and I do my best. And there are times when I'm lethargic and my mind isn't well focused. So I have a plan B. I will do mantra out loud instead of silently. Okay. Or I'll choose an affirmation instead of a mantra, so that if the mind is very lethargic, I have a way of still linking to the divine essence. That is key for me. I feel that I need it, and I love it very much, and it keeps me on my feet. Our time is nearly up, Shailaja, I just noticed.
Yeah, I told you that usually we have absolutely no trouble with, finding conversations to last, and we're always struggling to end it. So, anyway, a lot of beautiful comments have come. This is Dr. Ananda, who is one of my guests here as well, Dr. Ananda Balyogi Bhavnani. And he says consistency is the key to sadhana, repetition, rhythm, and regularity, according to Puja Ammaji. His mother, again, is an amazing person who traveled to India at the age of 25, and she met Swamiji here. And, she has been also on the path, I think, for many, many years now. And yeah, so we have Dr. Ananda in conversation with us a lot. And there's my cousin Manju, who says, so amazingly honest you are, Maji. So I think that is something, Mataji, that you have really, you have really opened, up to us, and, not trying to, like, made us feel like we are all, we feel flawed, and we feel like, we're not up to it. But you have made us realize that, it is okay. And, we just all struggle in different ways. But the important thing is sticking with the path. And there's Karthi Chechi, my cousin, who also says, such a wonderful session. Mataji has such a pleasant disposition, beautiful aura around her, very humble and honest. So lots of things. Mataji, you are a beautiful person inside and out. Yes, that's what I've been telling everybody. So there's Kannan, my neighbor here, who says hello. And Dr. Ananda has a question. How is an affirmation different than a mantra?
Well, affirmation are words which we connect to concepts. So when we're saying the affirmation, we're also thinking of whatever the words indicate, like my doggy affirmation. I'm just thinking of the energy and enthusiasm of the dog, and that awakens those energies inside me. Mantra is actually more powerful than affirmation for most situations, because it's sacred energy linked to spiritual energy. And the repetition, whether mental or aloud, awakens those sacred energies. So we use affirmation to correct to correct the mind when it's off balance, but we use mantra to attune to spirituality.
So beautifully explained, Mataji, the difference. And I think it is time already, and maybe we can close with closing from you.
First of all, a thank you. I'm so sorry I can't see you and be with you, and I hope one day to meet every one of you. And congratulations for coming onto this path and linking yourself to this great teacher, Shailaja Menon. She's
Mataji,
a very
please.
pure. No, I put up with it from you, so she's very, very pure. And she will
I
be a
was,
beautiful
I
guide
was,
every step of the way. And I just want to remind you, Swamiji's message toward the end of his life. There's great positive energies around us all the time, wherever we are, whatever circumstance we're in. Learn to trust that. We're being held tenderly in the hands of the Lord, a compassionate Lord. So call on that faith from your heart. Invite the Lord to be ever more present in your life. And feel the peace. That's our work now, is to be a place of peace. Each of us, each individual soul, to be a place of peace and to emanate peace. So those we encounter can pick up that energy, be healed by that energy within us. The whole world needs that. So I thank you so very much for coming and joining with Shailaja and myself this morning or this evening. And I'll just do a few moments of prayer. I'll chant Om one time, and then we'll be closed. Om Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. May the entire universe be filled with peace, with joy, with love, and with light. Jai Shri Sakguru Maharaj Ki Jai. And Jai to Shailaja Menon and to all of her friends and students. Om Shanti.
You completely embarrass me, Mataji. Anyway, I know we're closing, but really one of the most important or fascinating aspects of our conversation, what we just had, I think was the way that, like, I think the message I get from this conversation is about destiny as well, right? You said you had absolutely no desire to meet, Swamiji, and yet you met Swamiji, and in many ways that was your tryst with destiny. And then also another thing happened where you had no desire to come to India, and you completely were unhappy when you had to come, but yet you came and you loved it, and you stayed on for 10 years and enlightened so many, I mean, not enlightened us, but at least put us on the path. So I mean, I think that's another takeaway from here about how destiny catches up with us, and that is so beautiful. So thank you so much, Mataji, and I really hope we will have more conversations.
I look
And as
forward to
Dr.
that.
and as Dr. Ananda says, that is so beautiful that this is pure love. That's what emanates from you, Mataji.
Hari Om. Guru's grace. Namah Shivaya.